So I'm going to show you something else with selection. I'm going to go to a different picture here. This time I'm not going to use the lasso selection tool. I'm going to use this one called Polygonal. Now I might even zoom in a little bit on this to see it a little bit easier. Here's my selection. Hold down my spacebar to move it around. And what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to select this kind of top rectangle area. So I'm going to go for my polygonal one and I'm going to basically click and I'm going to go across and I'm going to click at each of these kind of corners. So this one works in straight lines. And if you watch when I get towards the end, I'll see a little circle. There you go, that little circle. Do you see that pop on? That means it's found the end. So if I click there now, it's selected that whole area. So this is useful if I wanted to put anything just in this particular area. So if I wanted to just colour that one, again, I could choose my brush. I'll go for a different colour this time. My brush is massive, so I'm going to make my brush smaller by pressing the left square bracket. I'm going to choose a better colour, go for a pink colour, and this time I'm going to make it a solid colour. So I'm going to take the opacity off so it's completely solid and my flow is completely solid. So now if I go over it, you can see it creates this nice vibrant colour. It's worth noting that if I go over more than once, it looks exactly the same. However, if I was doing this with my opacity down, so I'm going to go back to where I was, selected, I'm going to choose an opacity of about 30. Now if I go over it, it's one colour. If I go over it and again, it gets darker. So I can actually use this like rendering. I can build up shapes and colours by going over it more than once. I'll come back out of that again. Okay, I'm going to zoom out slightly. Go to my zoom tool and go for the Alt to make it a minus. This time, instead of selecting just this top, I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to do it in the same way for the moment, but I'm going to deselect by doing Control and D. Then I'm going to choose my polygonal selection tool again. I'm going to do this very quickly. I'm just going to go around the outside of it, choose all the various points, get to the top, join them. So I've selected my shape again. Now this is something that's really useful to be able to do, and that's called inversing. So I'm going to come up to where it says select and I'm going to choose inverse. So it looks the same, except now I've got these marching ants around the outside edge here. What I've actually done is I've said I don't want the middle selected, I want the outside selected. So although I selected around the shape here to start with, I've now inverted it. So if I go for my colours again this time I'm going to choose a little bit pinker, and might even change the brush type I'm going to use. So if I go for my brush this time, I come up here, I get different choices. I'm going to go for one of these kind of weird sort of brushes that are like real brushes. I'll see what that looks like. Okay, it's a very strange effect, and I'm going to come around the outside of it. Now at the moment this one's not very dark. I could increase my opacity maybe, but you can see as I go around that, it's only colouring where I want it to colour. Let me show you that a little bit darker. Put the opacity up to about 60 so it's more obvious. Okay, so I could use this for highlighting around a drawing if I wanted to. And the more times I go over, the darker it gets. But as you can see, it doesn't touch my original drawing. I could carry on and do the whole thing if I wanted to and fill it in. It doesn't matter how much I go over it. It doesn't affect the bit in the middle, which I selected originally. Okay, again, I'm going to get rid of all of those things I've done. I'm going to come up to my history and I'm going to get rid of it. Go back to the original open stage. Now it's worth telling you that the only reason that history works like this is because I haven't saved my work. If I save my work, I can't go back through the history like that and get rid of things. So